Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 517, 517. Saturday, August the 11th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yes, sirree. Good and hot, you guys. I'm sure wherever you are, at least where we are in the country right now, very, very hot, humid, sticky. Nice to be inside the AC here. Okay, by the way, haven't heard from Maura in quite a while. I'm starting to get worried. If you're out there, Maura, please check in and let us know you're okay. Haven't heard from you in a long time. Hope you're well. Check in now. And Peggy, we hadn't heard from Peggy in a while. She finally did check in, and so now we know she's okay. It looks like she had... Now, she sometimes has some interesting shift work, I know, but it appears she had to do a little move. So it looks like she's settled back in, and so she's back with us now, so welcome back. Peggy, we just need to locate Maura. And God knows what happened to Mr. Chopa. Lost him a long time ago. But if you're out there, Mr. Chopa, you can check in too. I always enjoyed your commentary. Okay. Let us get to the news. Well, it appears that Ocasio, Marty Feldman eyes Cortez, has dismissed Ben Shapiro's calls for a debate. And she's saying that Shapiro is sexist and has bad intentions. Shapiro offered Cortez $10,000 just to do a 1-hour debate. So now we have conservative women who are issuing the challenge, and in fact they're doubling the stakes to $20,000. Well, you know, this is really cool, and this is exactly what should happen. And it is never going to happen. I don't think, you know, Cortez is at least just smart enough to know that she's not that smart and that she doesn't want to have anything to do with people like Shapiro, who's a very, and I'm not a big fan of Shapiro, but the dude is sharp, very quick in his mind. He's been doing this debate stuff for a long time. He's very, very good at debating. I wouldn't want to debate the guy. He's tough, man. He's got his act together. And you debate that guy, you better have your act together, whether you agree or not. I mean, he's a good debater. And about 1,000 times smarter than Cortez, and she knows that. But, you know, in a way, and I have a lot of fun with Cortez. I make fun of her a lot. But in a way, I actually feel bad for her, you know, because I think she's probably a very nice girl. In fact, I kind of see her as like a child. She's very childlike. And I think she's like, what, 27 or something, but she's very childlike. And I think she's even much more immature than that, you know, than her age. It just seems to me she's very, very childlike. And I feel bad for her because she obviously got a left-wing indoctrination. She got ripped off wherever she went to college for economics. She got really, really ripped off, sold on to a left-wing socialist ideology. And quite honestly, the gene pool may not have been terribly kind to her. So I actually feel very bad for her, but it's not for all these reasons, or because she would just get herself blown out and made to look foolish in a debate with any reasonably intelligent person, because she lacks the reasoning and logic. She lacks the ability to of reason and logic, which you need to have reason and logic, a decent command of those faculties if you want to be a debater. And so, or at least you have to be able to fake it really well, and she's not able or capable to do either. But I actually feel sorry for her, and it's not because of all that, in the fact that, you know, we pick on her and make fun of her. I mean, it's all, you know, we're just having a little fun here. It's not serious, it's not personal. I don't know her, and again, I think she's probably a very nice young girl. And I feel bad for her that she's gotten sucked into the left-wing ideology and all the other things. But the reason I really feel sorry for her is because she doesn't know what she's gotten herself into and who the people are that she's messing with. And I don't mean me or Shapiro or left-wing, or I mean conservatives or Republicans or anything like that. I mean the corporate types who run the Democratic Party. Because I can assure you that she's high up on their list of people who they're going to cut the legs out from underneath at the first opportunity. Now, they have to be careful what they do because they don't want to, you know, damage that part of their base, which you're hoping will come around and vote for them in the fall and in 2020. So they're going to be careful what they do. But I can assure you that as soon as they get an opportunity to take a clean swipe at her and cut her legs out from underneath her and get her off the national stage, the corporate Democratic Party will take Cortez out just as swiftly as they possibly can. Yes, they will. So that's who she would have to be more worried about. It's not Republicans or conservatives or anything like that she should worry about. It's the corporate heads of the Democratic Party who are going to take care of her. And again, I just have a lot of fun with her, but, feel bad for her in a lot of ways. So we find out that the smut peddler, Glenn Simpson of Confusion GPS, told House investigators that he only met with Bruce Orr after the 26th election. He's on record as saying so. But the newly leaked 302s prove that he lied and that he met with Orr before the elections. We're talking about Bruce Orr. In fact, he met as early as August of 2016. Now, will Uncle Bob the Executioner indict Simpson for perjury? Of course not. And of course, then we learned also that after the 2016 election, that Simpson met with Bruce Orr, and he gave Bruce Orr a flash drive or thumb drive or some type of digital storage device. We don't yet know what is on that device and what that was used for. If that made its way into Peter's been stroking us and the counterintelligence operation, it most likely did. From what we know at this point, it most likely did. And I fully expect that when they get Bruce Orr in here in a couple weeks to get his testimony, probably unfortunately a closed-door session, but hopefully they will learn exactly what happened in that little event and what was on that flash drive and how that may have been used in the counter-intel operation. But keep in mind, just another example, this is like the third or fourth lie that we've caught Glenn Simpson in after his testimony. And, he just didn't say that he didn't talk to Bruce Orr. I read the actual question and answer, series of questions and answers when he was being questioned. And because Diane, Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America, Feinstein released all that stuff. And it's right there. He is asked in 3 or 4 different ways about having any type of communications or connections at all to anyone inside the FBI or DOJ prior to the 2016 election. So it wasn't just Bruce Orr. He told the Congress and these committees when they were questioning him, and I think it was the Judiciary Committee, he told them that not only, he didn't say Bruce Orr, he said he met with no. His answer was no. They asked, have you met with any FBI, DOJ officials prior to the 2016 election? He said no. So it's not just Bruce Orr that he denied meeting with. He denied meeting with anybody in the FBI and DOJ. And of course, now we can see he's lying. Again, these guys are all pathological liars. And they're being caught in all their lies, by the way. Now, the prosecution is rested in the Manafort trial. Really, they had a week of for the prosecutors, and they really only had 2 key witnesses. Their star witness, Rick Gates, who just got trashed and hammered and destroyed on the witness stand, and then the accountant. And that's really the only 2 reasonably decent witnesses that they would have had. So I think Uncle Bob and the Executioner and the Hillary donor posse had a very bad week in the Manafort trial. Now, it's taken kind of a strange twist because, they filed these motions against Ellis, a couple motions against him because they don't like the way he's treating them. And so at the end of the hearings, it appears that Judge Ellis has now called for an extended delay in the trial. An extended delay in the trial. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that. No one seems to know why he would do that because it's not really like what Ellis likes to do. He likes to move things along. So at this point, we don't know. I guess we'll just have to watch and see because next week the defense was supposed to do their thing. So it looks like that's not going to happen. So we don't know how long it's going to be delayed, but it's obviously going to go into some sort of a delay. And it says extended delay. This is coming to us from the Daily Caller. So we'll just have to find out how long this delay is and exactly why Ellis did this. Now, Ellis did make a little bit of an error. He got carried away when he's admonishing the Hillary donor posse, the legal team there for Uncle Bob. And I guess he had allowed them to have a witness in the courtroom and he had agreed to it and forgot that he had agreed to it. And then he chastised them for that. But he's essentially come out and said, yeah, okay, I apologize. I made a mistake. I did give him the okay to have that person in the courtroom who's going to be a witness or whatever. So, yeah, I apologize. I made a mistake. But on everything else, and then he actually, after that, he admonished them again on some other point. So, Judge Ellis is quite the character. We'll see how this goes. But right now, I'd say that Manafort's got at least a 50-50 shot of beating the rap. And even if he's found guilty, he might only get just time served. So, again, it's just another disaster for Uncle Bob the Executioner. None of these cases are going very well. None of them. Of course, we learned yesterday that the former wrestler who accused Jim Jordan is now walking back his claims. Of course he is, because it was all made up, and we know who was behind that. We know it was Perkins Coie, but Perkins Coie doesn't initiate things. They work for other people. I really hope that Jim Jordan keeps digging to find out who hired Perkins Coie, because the very fact that it's Perkins Coie that was hired tells me there's a little game at play here, and I would not be least bit surprised to find out that the people that was behind this was not Democrats, but Republicans, anti-Trump, never-Trump Republicans who didn't want to see Jordan become Speaker. They wanted to do as much harm to him as they could, and they wanted to try to slow him down from trying to get to the truth about the frame-up, Spygate, whatever you want to call it. And so, yes, this former wrestler has now recanted his statement, and he's backing off, and that's good for Jim Jordan. He's a very good man, by the way. And hopefully, after we win in the midterm elections, the very next win we'll get is that he will be voted the next Speaker of the House. Well, the Clinton body count continues to grow. It appears that we may have added another victim to the Clinton body count after about a year-long investigation into another murder that there was a lot of questions about. It appears that this Republican activist, Peter Smith, was found dead in his hotel room in May of 2017 in Minnesota. Smith was found with a plastic bag over his head. Smith had been trying to obtain the Right Reverend Clinton's missing emails. Smith had also told some friends about his quest and stated that Michael Flynn was was aware of his efforts. So, I don't know. I mean, I think he was getting treatment at the Mayo Clinic. I don't know if it was, serious or, terminal or whatever he had going on there. But he left a suicide note and insurance papers and all kinds of stuff. And it was made to look like a really carefully planned suicide. But it's just the way that it was done. I mean, it's really hard to commit suicide by wrapping a plastic bag around your head and then taking a bunch of rubber bands and tying them off around your neck so that you can't breathe, because eventually the desire to get air will overcome your desire to kill yourself. Unless you handcuffed yourself to something or did something that would not allow you to save yourself, I think it will be very, very difficult, especially for a suffocation death. In a suffocation death, man, you're trying to get air. And your natural inner drive to survive will overpower your desire to kill yourself in most cases. Very, very hard to suffocate yourself like that. So, yes, I smell a rat. And, of course, a lot of people are suggesting it's another addition to the Clinton body count. And I would not rule anything out in regards to the Clintons. Nothing. Okay, so yesterday, the hot topic of the day, and still to some degree it is, people talking about it, was a couple of tweets from Christopher Steele to Chris Orr, where they were discussing Christopher Steele to Bruce Orr, where they were discussing where Steele kept bringing up this mysterious person, our guy, and so. It didn't take long, people were trying to guess who our guy is. Now, I took my guess, and I think it's Julian Assange. That's a lot of people think it could be Assange. A lot of people think it could be Papagalopoulos. A lot of people think it could be, what's his name, Oleg Deripaska. In fact, it's pretty much Assange and Deripaska seems to be the two most popular, but there's people out there that think it could be Halper, they think it could be Papadopoulos. I've seen some people think it could be Akhmetian, Rinat Akhmetian. So there's quite a few different candidates, and it could even be somebody that we don't even know about, somebody whose name has never surfaced yet. So we really don't know, but everybody's taking a shot at it, and that's cool. We can all try to take a guess. It's kind of fun to try to see if you can figure it out. But I wanted to, I didn't really go into detail about why I personally thought it was Assange and why I still think it's Assange. Excuse me, I can't get my voice here. But hopefully, and we're going to get the answer to this question, by the way. We'll find out who this person was. I don't know if it'll be in a few days or it'll come out from some of the other 302s that get declassified or come out or whatever. But somehow we're going to find out who Christopher Steele is talking about, who our guy is. But I didn't really go into kind of breaking it down why I came to that conclusion. And there's one specific thing that make a lot of people think it couldn't be Assange, and it's something I'll get to in here in just a minute, and I'll tell you why I didn't. Why I guess I read it differently. So let me go through these again very specifically. These specific messages from Steele to Orr, pretty much word for word, and kind of give you my idea of where I'm coming from here. So here's the first message from Steele to Orr. He says, "Our guy is okay for the time being, but I would like to keep our channel open on him." This was January 27th, 2017. "Our guy is okay for the time being, but I would like to keep our channel open on him." Now, the very same day that message came, and I assume was an email from Steele to Orr, the very same day, January 27th, that communication was made, several other things were happening. On the very same day that transmission happened was the same day that the FBI interviewed Papadopoulos. January 27th, 2017 was also the day that the FBI first interviewed Papadopoulos. This was also 2 weeks after the Wall Street Journal had outed Christopher Steele. So Christopher Steele had been outed, and in fact, he had pretty much gone underground. Then, this was also 3 days before Michael Flynn was interviewed, and also 3 days before Milian was outed. So you had all these things going on. Christopher Steele is outed, Milian is outed, Papadopoulos is interviewed, and it's 3 days before Flynn. These things all happen within a couple of days of this particular email. "Our guy is okay for the time being, but I would like to keep our channel open on him." So he's okay for the time being. Now, keep in mind what's going on at this time, behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, Mark Warner and Mr. Waldman are acting as intermediaries between Assange and the DOJ NSD, and the man there handling that at the DOJ NSD is David Laufman, and they're trying to cut a deal. They're trying to cut a deal because they're aware that Julian Assange has the Vault 7 material, which they're going through and preparing for release. They're also quite aware that Assange continues to tweet about knowing that the Russians didn't hack the DNC. It was no actor. He knows who hacked the DNC, and this type of thing, which it goes straight to the Russian narrative. So, and we know what Julian Assange wanted. He wanted his freedom. So it appears that at this time, the reason that they're trying to do something with Assange is because they're terrified he's going to come out and release some evidence or say something or whatever that might destroy the Russian narrative. And everything on January 27th of 2017 was riding. This is just a week after Trump's inaugurated. Everything is riding on the Russian narrative. Steele has just been outed. Milian has just been outed. And Trump has just been president for a week. And they're feeling the pressure. They're feeling the pressure, and they're terrified of what Julian Assange may end up doing. And, of course, the CIA and the intelligence community doesn't want the Vault 7 stuff coming out, which they know he has, and which he's already signaled. Because, remember, Assange, through this whole time period, and even before, has always had back channels open, trying to work with, trying to get some sort of a plea deal, trying to deal with this situation. So, this stuff's all going on behind the scenes. Then we get another email 4 days later from Steele to Bruce Orr. Says, hey Bruce, doubtless a sad day for you. Just wanted to check on you that you're okay. I'm still in SITU, which we all pretty much have determined that he's in a particular place. And able to help locally, as discussed, along with your Bureau colleagues, with our guy if the need arises. So he's talking about our guy again. He's saying it's a sad day. That was because Sally Yates was fired that day, and he wants to check and make sure that Bruce Orr is not getting ready to be fired, or that he's okay. He's telling Bruce Orr that he is still in a good situation and ready to, we would assume, ready to exchange information or get information or give information. He's obviously Steele's obviously talking to someone and as sort of an intermediary. He's involved with someone that they're working with in some way behind the scenes. And Steele saying, hey, I'm still, here, and I'm able to communicate with this person. Now, it could have been Mr. Deripaska, it could have been Waldman, but it could have been all done behalf on Assange, because Waldman was representing Assange and Deripaska, and Steele, by the way. So he's saying he's there, he's local, and he's talking about the Bureau. That would obviously be the FBI. Because when Steele's talking about the FBI, he uses the word Bureau. When he's talking about the intelligence agencies, he uses the word agency. That's what we figured out. Because Steele kind of talks in code, and he's also a spook, so spooks talk in some different type of language sometimes. It's kind of disguised. But I did a lot of research on this and tried every way possible to nail down where the hell Steele was at. Okay, because that's real important. It's pertinent to the context of this. So I found out that... well, I didn't really find out for sure anything, but I'm about 90% sure at this point. I can find nothing to prove to me or show me that Steele was anywhere near Washington, D.C. So I believe that when he sent this message to Bruce Orr by email or whatever, I believe when he sent this email that he was in fact in London. He was in London. So when he says that I'm still in SITU, I think he's telling them he's in London, that he's still in London. So that would be my guess. I don't think he was in D.C. on January the 31st. He had been in D.C. In the fall. He had been in D.C. In September, and he had also been in D.C. in October. He had made 2 trips here on the request of Glenn Simpson. But after the election, after the November election, I think he went back to the U.K. And of course, if you look at the date, we know that he was in the UK, then his name was dropped by the Wall Street Journal at the end of January, and this would have been, 4 days later, essentially. So, I have every reason to believe that Steele was in the UK, in the general vicinity, which meant he would have been in the general vicinity of Assange. He also, on that exact same day of January 31st, 2017, said, if you end up out, I really need another Bureau contact or point number. Again, Bureau, he'd be talking about the FBI, a point number, who is briefed. We can't allow our guy to be forced to go back home. It would be disastrous all around, though his position now looks stable. Well, whose position was constantly in question and is still in question? Julian Assange. It's always in question because he's constantly working behind the scenes to try to cut a deal with the embassy to get out of there, to get out of London. He's trying to cut a deal with the U.S. He's trying to cut a deal or work out a situation with Sweden and the charges he was facing there. He's trying to work with the British government. So the EU, he's got his people working through the EU. So he's got a lot of people behind the scenes working all this stuff out. But he still presents a great threat because he's got this Vault 17 stuff he's threatening to release, which he's probably using as leverage to get some sort of a deal for himself. He's also tweeting out and talking about the fact that there was no Russians involved in the hacking, no government, and so it's the Russian narrative. And at this point, the Russian narrative is everything to these people, Christopher Steele and the cabal, to try to save their necks. It didn't work. Trump got elected, and now they're in deep trouble. And the thing that they fear most is they can't control Assange because he can drop the entire bomb on the Russian narrative. He's the guy that they would be most concerned with. We know they were communicating with him and trying through Mark Warner and through Waldman and through the DOJ NSD, Mr. Loftman, trying to cut a deal to do anything they could to, number one, stop him from releasing the Vault 7, and number two, to stop threatening or taking any action of releasing any documents or anything that would kill the Russian narrative. Assange is definitely a very important figure to them still at this point. And so he says, we cannot allow our guy to be forced to go back home. Now, this line here makes a lot of people say, oh, well, he can't be talking about Assange because, Assange is in the UK and the embassy, and, if he went back home, he'd go back to Australia. Well, Australia cooperates with the U.S. government, so going back to Australia wouldn't do him any good, would it? So, but the reason that I don't take that line literally. I think when Steele says we can't allow our guy to be forced to go back home, the way I took that is that we can't be forced to allow Steele to go back to his home position, which is the position of, okay, fine and dandy. You guys don't want to work with me. You're not going to give me immunity. You're not going to let me out of this place. Screw you. I'm going to go ahead and release the Vault 7 stuff. It's very damaging, and I'm going to keep tweeting, and eventually maybe I'm just going to drop the documents that prove that the Russians didn't have anything to do with the hacking. So I think that Christopher Steele, when remember, he's a spy, and spies use this type of lingo. And I think because Julian Assange really has no home per se, you could say Australia, but I don't know if he would go there even if he were released. He might visit mom, but he probably wouldn't stay there. They're too closely connected to the United States. He'll be looking over his shoulder all the time. He could go maybe I think he would probably go somewhere to Central America. He would go somewhere where there's a government that's not totally in bed with the U.S. or the U.K. or someone like that. Somewhere where he could go where he wouldn't be looking over his shoulder. So I never took it literally as far as Steele going, or as far as our guy going home. I took it as he'll come back to his home position, which right now his position is that he's going to cooperate and work with us to get a deal. But if we can't get a deal, he'll come back to his home position, which is he's going to release Vault 17. He could drop the Trump-Russia narrative in the whole 9 yards, or the Russia collusion narrative of the whole 9 yards. So that's really the way I took that, because so many of the other things that he says, that's the only thing that would really draw any question in my mind as to whether or not he's talking about Assange. Everything else sounds like he's talking about Assange. He says it would be disastrous all around, though his position now looks stable. So yeah, he's got disastrous information. The information he has could be disastrous for Steele, and that's the number one person Steele's looking out for is himself. He's now been outed, but for the Democrats and for the overall narrative. All these other characters that people talk about really had nothing that could drop the bomb on the Russian narrative, who could throw a wrench in the spokes, who could expose CIA programs like Vault 7 did. Assange is the only guy that's really, truly got this kind of information. It could end up being a huge problem for the perps. So we get in the spring of 2017, we have what's going on here behind the scenes when all these texts are taking place. And remember, these texts really took place over a period of really 4 days. From January 27th to January 31st is when all these texts that we just looked at happened. But in that time period, in the early spring of 2017, Adam Waldman was negotiating with the Justice Department, David Laufman, to arrange a deal with Assange. And they were hard on trying to get that done, working on it really hard. in February of 2017, just after these 3 messages from Steele, Waldman texted Mark Warner and he said, hey, the reason I got involved is that this guy is going to do something catastrophic for the Dems. You notice how they won't mention his name. He's either referred to as our guy or this guy. So Waldman texts Mark Warner saying, hey, the reason I got involved, this guy is going to do something catastrophic for the Democrats, Obama, and the CIA and national security. I hope someone will consider getting him to the U.S. to ameliorate the damage. So here you can see Waldman is clearly talking about Assange, who he had visited with 9 times, including just the night before in person. He had just been to London and just come back, and he said, hey, I've just come back from London talking to Assange. I'm telling you, you guys better cut a deal with this dude. He's ready to drop Vault 7. He's ready to drop the Russian narrative, the whole 9 yards. All of you guys' butts are writing on this, so that is I think, more evidence to suggest to me that they're talking about Julian Assange. He's the guy who he's holding the bomb. You know, he's got the grenade. He's got one hand on the pin, on the grenade. He's holding it, and he's saying, either cut a deal with me, get me out of here, give me immunity or whatever, or I pull the pin. And this is what Waldman is advising Mark Warner, hoping Mark Warner, of course, will go to DOJ, Loftman, and say, hey, you know, we really got to get a deal on this, which they did. They actually did get the deal, and then Comey shot it down. So again, on March 31st of 2017, we have Waldman again saying, my other guy, like Steele, again calling him a guy, he won't say his name, my other guy, like Steele, very mistrustful of the U.S. government. Well, who would that be? Who would be so mistrustful of the U.S. government? Remember, they're trying to get a deal, but Assange obviously is not trusting the deal. They're saying, yeah, come on to the U.S. and we'll cut a deal with you. And Assange is probably saying, I ain't coming to the U.S. until you actually officially exonerate me, legally exonerate me, because otherwise you're going to play a game with me. You're going to tell me to come to the U.S. to cut a deal. I'm going to come here, you're going to arrest me, and I'll be gone for life, and I'll be locked in a hole, and nothing will ever happen. So clearly, Waldman is saying that they're trying to get this deal, but Assange does not trust the U.S. government, so he's obviously not getting what he wants, enough security or enough assurances of security or what have you. Waldman's saying he's been essentially shut out of the country and dragged through the mud. Who had been shut out of the country and dragged through the mud? Assange. Every single thing that I look at here tells me it's Assange. The only thing that could raise a slight bit of question is the line about him, hey, our guy could go back, we don't want to force this guy to go back home. But I don't think he was talking about literally back home. Assange doesn't have a home. Home for Julian Assange is the truth. Home for Julian Assange is the thing that would give him the leverage to free himself. And that is, he's got the Vault 7 stuff, and he can destroy the Russian narrative. That's home base for Julian Assange. Not a physical piece of geography, but the two things that he owns that could set him free. So that is why I'm sticking with Assange. Now, maybe we'll get some unredacted more 302s, maybe we'll get some more information, so it'll come from somewhere and it'll expose another person or some other information and it'll change my mind. But for the information that we have now, for everything that I've looked at, I'm going to stick with the fact that I think they're talking about Julian Assange. But the other character that could certainly will be my second choice, although I'll give reasons why I think it's probably not him, is Oleg Deripaska. Oleg Deripaska. So I do not have time to go through this deep dive on Deripaska and why I believe it's not Deripaska, but still a very interesting character and is playing more of a role than we thought. So that will be something we'll talk about tomorrow on Sunday's video. So we'll be back tomorrow on Sunday. I'll pick up the other part of this and we'll talk about Oleg Deripaska and any other breaking news. Thanks so much for tuning in. You guys have a good night. I'll be back to you soon. Check in with us tomorrow. Let you know you're all right, sweetie. Bye.